Please do.
What's your status in company? I'm sales. Yeah.
It's Christmas Day. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to you all. Very warm welcome to the 77th members meeting here at Goodwood on behalf of Woodham and Mortimer. It's our great pleasure to have you come and join us. One of the things we wanted to do is give you the opportunity. You're obviously at the meeting because you love classic cars and racing. And traditionally to this meeting, if you saw us last year or passed by, you'd have seen we had Bruce McLaren's E-Type, but it was finished. And people are always interested to know, what goes on behind the restoration or building or re-engineering of one of these fabulous race cars. So we thought it'd be nice to invite some of our top engineers from the factory and indeed our works driver to come and talk to you about how you do that. My name's Steve Dix and I'm a racer myself, I have to say, classic racer. It's my great pleasure to host these events with the team. But far more important than me are these two young gentlemen over here.
Love the work with the young.
Yeah. And I think we'll start with yourself, Matt. Come forward a second here. This is young Matthew, and you didn't learn your craft overnight. With Woodham Mortimer, it's a case of 20 years in the game, and you're still on a YTS scheme.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm Matthew Berry, senior restoration technician with Woodham Mortimer, and you say every day is a school day. You're always learning. You can have a wide and base knowledge of mainly classic cars, but we tend to always, each member of staff will tend to specialise in each of these. We have guys that just will work on 120s. I'm more of a Ferrari and an E-Type specialist, and we have engine builders, and we all have our own little niches. But we have a good background in classic cars. You can't know everything about every car, it's impossible. And a lot of our clients and yourselves will know a lot more about a particular motor vehicle than we. So we won't ever try to pretend we know it all. We'll say, all right, that's the case. Well, I didn't know that. So it's always a learning curve.
Matthew, we're also with Mortimer. Let's be fair, we're all racers. We love competition, we love to compete, and we needed to build a new car really, I guess, for Chris Ward, who we'll be talking to later, to race. And this could be it.
Yes.
Now this car, actually, in theory, it started life as a road car, but like they did back in the day, this is 1963, very quickly it became a race car.
Yes, this car was basically an early 3.8 car, and it's a GT, 363 GT car. Now, as we know, we have to do a certain set of rules you have to abide by. So this car, as you can see, many modifications from a standard car, but we have, as you say, a set of rules. We can improve certain things and we can tweak. Like the engine, it has to be a standard engine, but it doesn't mean to say we can't gas-flow the engine to perfection. We can't change certain things, smooth things out, make things work much better. Braking system, as you can see, they're not quite standard pistons. They're slightly bigger. The discs are slightly fatter, but it's still the original concept of the brakes, which are on a 61 car, 62 car, were extremely poor. The engine always outperformed the car. Standard gearbox, but what we've done, we've completely taken the gearbox apart, re-engineered it and smoothed it. It's almost the gearbox is too good to build. When you see them come back, they are highly polished like chrome, and it allows the gears to work more efficiently, quicker gear changes. But we have to use a standard Moss box. But it doesn't say we can't re-engineer that and rework the car and make it a lot better than it originally was.
So, in terms of the car's essence, Matthew, if I've been old enough and wealthy enough to have bought one of these in period, and then I jump into a Woodham Mortimer E-Type, would I feel the same way?
From one of our cars, we as you say, it's in essence the same car, but we make them much, much better. If we will build a road car for you, as I said, we can improve it massively. It's a completely different animal from a 61 car, or when the 4.2 came out, 65 car. They are completely different. We can help the suspension, we can widen things, we can improve things, suspension, engine, cooling, all the bits are important to us. And even now we can fit power steering to some of these vehicles, because we've been using power steering for 20 odd years. And you get in some of these classics, and even though the smart factor is huge, you're always going to have that, well, it's not quite the same as the car you drive on a daily basis, but we do our best to do this. This particular mark of car here is a race car. It's on original points. It doesn't say we can't completely go through that distributor and balance every bob weight to has it advanced curve absolutely correctly. But we would fit electronic ignition to a road car. So we can do many things. There's an aluminium high efficient radiator. It has an oil cooler. You think, well, that's not standard. But it was allowed in period. Because more oil needs more cooling, and we can improve water pump efficiency, radiator cores, all these bits and pieces we can help and make a lot better than they originally were. So yes, the answer to your question is they're a lot better than they ever were.
So one of the areas for me that, as a racer and both as a road car driver, that's improved enormously over the last however many years is safety. And you have to say, one of the things that always concerns us classic racers is, back in period, let's be fair, people die a lot more often than they do these days. Are these modern cars safer than the originals would have been?
Yes, they are. I mean, obviously, as you say, we're always improving braking efficiency. This car here has a manufactured welded solid roll bar, so the car integral strength is much improved. It was a monocoque construction anyway, which was revolutionary in its day. And, we can make these cars pretty tough. We can make them stop and start efficiently. Yes, we can.
Awesome. Now I'm going to call Paul forward here a second, because the man who bolts these engines together is none other than this young man here. When you started with the business, you had hair, didn't you? That's how difficult this job is. But what goes into building an engine like this? How many man hours?
Somewhere between 120 and 150 hours from start to finish, from you coming into the engine room to coming out to complete the project after dyno testing.
And what are you looking for when you're building an engine like this? Is it ultimate power? Are you looking for drivability? Are you looking for reliability? Or I guess you take into account what the car's going to be used for?
Yeah, if it's going to be a race car, then power is obviously always important. Road cars, I tend to personally more steer towards torque figure, somewhere in the mid-rev range. And yeah, that's sort of, it all depends what the customer would like.
Okay, and what about getting parts, creating parts? Is that a challenge when you're building something like this, or maybe some of the more obscure engines and cars you work on?
Something like this is obviously the aftermarket parts is widely available. A lot of it isn't the quality we would like, so we do create and make a lot of the parts ourselves. We have it built to our specification, just so we know it's right, it's reliable, it's bomb-proof basically, and will last. It all helps create power, it'll make for a better turning assembly or rotating assembly. We have our own cranks made, rods, pistons, blah 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 for our race stuff, which is just better than a lot of the stuff out there.
And people are probably wondering, in terms of, these cars are costly. To rebuild one of these is costly, but I'm guessing that when you get a donor car come in and you pull it apart, it's quite a lot of wear in a lot of the stuff we see driving around on the road.
Yeah, it depends on the car. Something like Jaguar is always quite a good thing because the man himself could afford to fix it, pay to fix it. The higher the value car, I generally find that the worse it is for wear because people couldn't afford the parts, couldn't afford to repair them properly, so they were bodged, and it sort of goes up with the value of the car, so to speak. But yeah, they're good. Yeah.
We're amongst friends here. No one will tell anybody this, so it won't get published, but what's the worst job you have to do on an engine? What's the most fiddly, annoying job for a Woodham Mortimer engine specialist? Your most hated job? Come on, be honest.
Cleaning a dirty engine.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a princess now with it.
So the truth is, you're an engine man, an engineer, but you don't like to get your hands dirty.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I like it like that.
Yeah, I bet you do. I think you've been spoiled, to be honest with you. The next young man we're going to talk to doesn't really make your life any easier, because you have a certain young man who's made his name in the last couple of years here at Goodwood, winning countless things by driving the wheels off everything you built.
Yes, he has. We're quite lucky. He's quite mechanically sympathetic. I will give him that.
Yes.
But he's tried everything we've given at him, and he hasn't broke much of it.
Right, and at that point, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to introduce, and I'd like you to join me, giving him a big round of applause, and indeed a round of applause for our two young engineers here. So please put your hands together, if you would do, for Paul and Matthew, ladies and gentlemen. Very hard to get engineers to speak in public. We're very lucky here. And also please join me in welcoming our works driver, Mr. Chris Ward. Well, Chris, this must give you a feeling of pride when you look over the quality of work that the guys in your workshop do at Woodham Mortimer.
For sure. The only reason we've been as successful as we have over the past 5-6 years is because of the expertise that these guys put into the car. Their passion is beyond, well, it's second to none. And that's allowed me to be able to go out and do my job and win various events at Goodwood, whether that's at the Revival or whether it's at the festival or even here at the members meeting.
You particularly like these things, don't you? You do enjoy getting behind the wheel of a classic Jaguar.
Well, a classic car is really rewarding to drive. It's very engaging, and there's much more reward from driving a classic car than there is a modern car. Modern cars are quite sanitised. They have anti-lock braking systems, traction control, stability. You don't have any of that with a classic car. It's all down to the seat of the pants, the feel, what you can see, the awareness. And really having to get around the various handling characteristics from your own ability, but also sharing that information, what I can feel as a driver, with the engineers, because I can't do my job without actually relating to the engineers working on the car, whether that's the engine side of things or whether it's on the car setup as well. It really is a team effort.
We always say in motor racing that, you know, the stuff we learn on the track that we pass on to our customers and improves the road cars we built. And with Mortimer, that's really true, isn't it? You guys are actually out there developing cars, further developing cars and making them better than they were in period.
Every car that we build, every engine that we build, we always strive to make further inroads into making more performance out of the car, whether that's ultimate brake horsepower or whether it's the torque. And that's the same whether it's a race car or it's a road car. And there's lots of similarities between the two. You don't want a full race setup for the road, but you want to make the car quicker, more compliant. And so a lot of the development comes from the race car that we put into the road cars as well.
Chris, you were saying earlier on today when you were wicking me round Goodwood in that Daytona sideways, so I hasten to add, that it's one of your favourite racetracks. You've won here multiply. What's your favourite race win at Goodwood?
I think it probably is the first time we won the TT. In 2015 I was sharing the car with Gordon Shedden. We qualified third. I made a pretty average start, but within a couple of laps we were back into the lead, and it was a lead that we held on to for the remainder of the race. And it's not just the driving of the car, it's the emotion that you have when you come in, when you do the pit stops, and at the end of the race to see the enjoyment on all of the engineers' faces is just, it's better than taking the checkered flag, to be perfectly honest. It's that team effort, and it's showing the passion that everybody has for the work that they do on the cars at Woodham Mortimer.
And his lordship's done an extraordinary job, hasn't he, with the whole Goodwood festivals. I mean, there's no question about it. Sold out every year. Really knowledgeable, enthusiastic fans.
Definitely. It's about getting up close and personal. You can't do that anywhere in the world apart from Goodwood in terms of, well, especially at the members meeting, it's access all areas. The Revival is a little bit more limited, but His Grace has it ideally. He's got a great range of cars, right from the Edwardian right the way through to the almost current Le Mans prototypes outside, and just such a variety, and he invites a lot of different drivers as well, so there's a good skill set out there. It's entertaining. You won't need to watch that mini race that's just been out there. Action packed from the word go to the finish, and it's because of the circuit, the way the circuit flows. There's no stop start, it flows really well. It's not sanitised in any way, so if you make a mistake there's consequences for it. You don't just run wide onto a tarmac area. You potentially could have a problem, so you've got to gather it all back together. By the time you brought it back on the track, you've lost 3 or 4 seconds. So it's a fantastic place. It's going back to how it was in period, but thoroughly enjoyable to drive and also to watch.
That he potentially could have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. That's typical northern understatement. As Sterling Moss discovered all those years ago, this is not a great place to crash.
No, for sure it isn't, but it's about keeping on the black stuff where you can do. But it's also about driver ability. And a better driver here will be shown much more than somewhere like Silverstone that's got a huge run-up area, so you can make the mistakes and not have any consequence for making that.
I think one of my favourite victories you had here was with the Mortimer Rover ST1. The car's here driving, but you're not in it.
That's a real hard thing to take today. Seeing that's out there and not being part of the team is really difficult. But it's got a new home now, a new set of drivers, and so we wish the car all luck.
Finally, Chris, let's explain what we do, because I think at Woodham Mortimer, you know, in the business, it's become the classic name over the last year or so. There's no question about it. Long heritage of the company. Matthew was mentioning he'd worked for the company for 20 plus years. And the reality is, we've really gone back to our roots in terms of development, engineering, building cars Tell me a little bit about what you and the other 60 guys do in Malden.
Well, we specialise in restoring classic cars, whether it's a Jaguar E-Type, whether it's a Ferrari 250 short wheelbase. The guys are so multi-talented that they're able to adapt between different marques, different models, and it's all credit to them that they're able to do that. I think it's better doing that than specifically specialising in one particular car, because it means they're more motivated, that their enthusiasm is there, because they're working on different things and different projects, not necessarily